Hello, gorgeous subscribers, lovely people of these times of now. With my biggest and best welcome to you all this evening, with the greatest love from my heart and gladness of heart to share that with you today. Today we're going into the spiritual ports of equity along with Africa, some other races and cultures, and we don't know yet what our findings have been. Now we're following on from last week where a friend of Derek's called Caroline, came on and did a wonderful clearing with her regarding the divine feminine. Let me just turn that off. And it was so tremendous. But one of the most hugest things that was observable and is observable still now is the gap that was left when the trickery and the esoteric binding of the feminine was basically woven throughout the grids in Egypt. So I'm really excited to look at this because this feeling of transforming the feminine helps Earth to grow and evolve. And also it helps to loosen and remove the binds that have kept many high societies, civilizations and cultures in a massive decline. So we're going to just bring on, when I say we, it's all of Ange today. Well, it is all of me all the time, but in this moment, we just give it the direction. So let me just bring you back. Hello, Derek. Hello, Harrison. How are you?
Hi, Angela. Very well. Hi, Harrison.
I am doing great. Things are pretty good here, though we are in the middle of an electioneering period, but you're still going on.
Right. So election times can be particularly heavy in terms of the imprinting that comes on from the psyche and the programs of others, but also the system program. So let's just have a little look and fling open the doors and make a grand entrance into the spiritual court of equity. Hello, we've arrived. Let's do this. So let's just look at that. So let's just pop the election in there, but also we will go into further levels of the rigging of the decisions. And it's very important here to note that it's sometimes tricky when dealing with this situation. So Harrison studies the system a lot and looks at its machinations, and it can entangle him into it a bit. So what we're going to do just now, we're going to perform a Concordia spiritual activation, guys. I hope that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where we just lose that, and we're going to do this in a spiritual court of equity to ensure that this is multiversally taken care of through all our future generations. So we just breathe into the no time space. Oh time, no time. Just breathing into your universe that is you. And if you struggle to breathe, take a long, slow, deep breath in. Fill your lungs. Fill your stomach. Fill yourself with the natural frequencies of the healing energies of this universe. I pray that for you in this moment, past, next week, next year, to allow this connection of growth to occur. Allow it to occur and expand and disentangle you cell by cell from every false construct, religion, with a power pack of sovereign revocations that you came here with, had forgotten about. The release packages that you kept hidden for safety. Disentangle from the system view. Disentangle from the old. For now, we take a step forward on this journey in our sacred consciousness to deep within the fifth world of peace. Allowing the neurons to let go of the false memories of false times, false agendas, false programs, projections, holograms, falsehood at large, deceit running deep, always trying to grasp at the corners of your soul. Gear you up to their way of thinking, let go. Go down again, down to one. On this universal ride of self. Gliding down, gliding through. Strengthening all courage within you. By the force of grace of these times. Forever now. Never blind. With eyes to see and hearts to feel, spirits to learn from. Then we heal the deepest, darkest dualistic aspects entrenched in mud, mud of the system, a load of old FUD, crud. We let it go, we shake it free. Common man, her or his goals set free. Into sacred prayer, into sacred light, reaching every one of us. All voices heard with light. The light all around, the light within. Beautiful, glowing, knowingness. As we resolve the sins within, the connection with her, the connection with our lives, frequencies that drag us through a heavy mire of servitude, never letting go, always will now you've learned. Your soul is able to let go. Let go of the control, let go of the fear. Your eternal journey is one and here. Present in you, present in me. May we go forward with a divine sense of glee, that no one, no thing can occur unless you let it. Whatever it was, whatever it will be, let it go in this spiritual court of equity. The 15 above, below and all around, the ones that have plagued us and stamped us into the ground, we give them no thought. We give them no life. We give them no credence. We're bored with their times that limit our growth and who we are. We shed it now. To the highest levels of our own source we become. We bring it in, anchored, never fearful in disbelief, always true, always peace. Or programs that seek within the pain and punishment of the system that they wanted to hold within. That was never yours, it was always theirs, functioning for them when you were unaware. But now that you are always in the light, feeling, one, becoming the signature frequency of infinite light, past the system, through the I am, into the future, knowing you can. With a divine light of breath, you step into the future now. Free, disentangled. Give yourself a bow, pat on the back, some good self-esteem, that you can really make it through every single timeline in between. Never phased out, always within, with this deep inner secret knowingness that you'll always win. Breathe.
I would like to say that message and what you've just spoken about in the court of equity, I'm going to go with like the stamp, signed, sealed, and done.
Thanks. How you doing?
Sorry, Harrison?
Yeah, I'm doing okay, though I'm holding my phone on my hand. I know I'll manage. I was having a slight headache, but I can feel it has disappeared. So I'm ready to go.
Good on you. Got to get that system out of your head.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they are just manipulating the numbers and the outcomes and the way they want the situation here to go. I think that was what was catching up with me.
Yeah,
But,
don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Of course they are.
Yeah.
Want to. But the point is that you are free. Your mind is free of that. Right, and this is going to be your job to keep. I know that there's a certain level you want to feel that you know what's going on, but you might just need to pop your head into it once a week and reduce down the feeds and the entanglements into your brain, especially now at this age where you're coming into this age of your own spiritual awakening and power. And it's like your natural energetics are predisposed to your own personal awakening, but you need that energy for your own growth and development. So when that natural energy surges within you and you've got this heavy imprint of the thoughts of the system, you're literally giving that to them.
Sometimes when I'm doing my inner work and my breathing exercises, I get to this point where it's like I have a shield around me that just knocks out anything that's trying to interact or try to communicate to me that's not of union and communion with me. So I make sure only those guys who are in union and communion with me, those who have my highest interests within them, are the guys that are gonna reach me and have an interaction with me. And sometimes I have to choose that I have to have my alone time with nobody entering my space. Yeah.
But also that you interacting with the system.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
it's just like every time you do, it's an open door. So before you do, take precautionary measures that you're just
Ah,
independently observing it without entangling your energy into it, because then you're giving it the voice with your own free will.
That's so true. And what I'd like to add here, one must just always take into recognition that we're living in a time where it's service to others, not service to self. So self-serving political groups, organizations, or people, the energy is they can serve themselves, but it will just eventually implode upon itself, and their ideas and what they want to put out will just eventually crumble to nothing. So it doesn't matter who gets in. If it's service to self, it will eventually crumble and dissolve and implode upon itself. For the people that, it doesn't matter which group or organization or political party that you're a member of, service to others will actually expand and grow in these times.
Exactly. And it's like, right, here is the construct that is firmly situated outside of ourselves. You do not allow it to flourish within. That's yours. And let no man or beast or female, whatever, touch it, because it's yours. And no one can give it permission unless you do. And that's the beautiful of it. Reject, reject. We do it all the time. Reject in this culture. Reject information. And then we build the universe within. And then that becomes the manifestation of our outer world.
And with the bifurcation taking place, that energy is starting to come through. So you can really start to see the split in consciousness and the split in what's taking place in people's lives and even in political groups and everything. It's that growing, expanding consciousness that's blowing in. Whether you like it or not, it's going to blow in. And the Court of Equity is working with that consciousness, the higher consciousness, the highest ideals, bringing it forward, explaining it to people.
Thank you, because very often in a pioneering role, there isn't a framework. You see, I can't use system frameworks to do what I do. It has to be of that moment or of a specific trajectory. And, you know, it can confuse people because a lot of people think, what am I talking about? And I've had people say that to me a lot. It's like, what are you talking about, Ange? And it's really, you know, I've had to learn to simplify it. But the subject is so vast because this is our creationary life, our existence over millions of years. And when, you know, it's been a real growth point to say, right, this actually spiritual court of equity is part of us. It's not external. So when we clear through the lower levels, the physical aspects of ourselves, we will find it rooted in that trauma and we can resolve it. And that is the most beautiful. I mean, you saw what you observed. Hold on a minute, excuse me. You observed and took part in last week's broadcast, didn't you? And it, you know, this lady was really struggling. You could see what the spiritual court of equity does for somebody. Even, this is really important, this is what a lot of people don't know, is that pain is emotions. And that lady had so much negative emotion towards the female in her system that it registered as pain. So she can't flow, she can't move forward with what she's trying to do. So when we extend this to all soul groups, to all star cultures, to all ancestral lineages, this is the type of micro and macro resolution that we need to harness the change. And once that resolution has taken place, the spiritual and physical pain are removed. And bit by bit, that person can expand at phenomenal levels. These are parts of ourselves that are connected to all infinite intelligence in this universe. So I hope I have simplified that little wee nugget that maybe needed to come out.
Yes, and that nugget is extremely, extremely powerful.
Thank you. Plenty of them. I need to do some of those. Anyway, that's something else that needs to happen. All right, precogs, get on it. See how I talk to myself. Anyway, they're all like it, so we all know. There's no surprises there. Ah, right, Africa, Mama Africa. So the spiritual courts of equity are open. We're going to provide a service here. So what I thought would be really good is to look at, and I know there is conflict going on in system interpretations and projections, but what interests me is the human life element. And I think this is key and crucial. So the human lives that have been affected on an ancestral generational trauma level, right? So we're just going to bring in all the beings, all the people, tribes, lineages from Africa. And then I want to bring in who are known as the 12 tribes of Israel. And then I want to bring in the Hyperboreans. Go on, Derek, go for it.
I just want to add that the 12 tribes of Israel are also represented by the 12 lines of longitude around the globe.
Thank you. So we're just going to bring a big old light to Mother Earth in this spiritual court of equity. And we're just going to examine those lines. And it'd be good to see what comes up in those lines, because all roads are going to lead us back down to Antarctica, methinks.
Yeah, and also that thought of Antarctica has just crossed my mind.
Well, today must be the day.
Yeah, and the animation was to one of the 15 multidimensional beings is located there, controlling things from that angle.
Yeah, look, there were more than 15. I know I definitely read 17 key, and I know it's only 2 more. And then we have the operations side of things. So 15 are there present. And then all the, I would like to continue on with a focus on Egypt and these warring factions from Atlantis and the Hyperboreans and the fight for technology and the other side of the Atlanteans, the other races. So Atlantean root races. So we're going to go for the 5th root race cycle. And all those who ever experienced a connection here with it. Also, we might as well just take it back to the 4th, 3rd, 2nd, or 1st. And then I think we'll have quite a wide berth there. What is the emotional reading you get from these as you observe in these different groups and lineages?
What I'm feeling is that at some point in regards to Africa, there was a high spiritual grouping of people, but they were also involved with technology. And at some point, a controlling group came over and made sure the technology was dismantled and buried and whatever happened to that. And there was this campaign of demonizing technology to the people so that they would go backwards in terms of their spirituality and all that, to have a certain power that was gonna govern over them. And what I can say, it looks like it was like a divide and rule kind of an agenda that was implemented over there. And this feeling of pain, guilt, and shame has been crossing across all the lineages of African people, being demonized and making sure that anything in regards to technology, if you tried to go through that path, things weren't gonna end up well for you. Until recently, after the colonization that came, that's when things started moving upwards.
Yeah, the ascension of soul through its 0 point. People think of ascension as rising up, but it's rising in all directions. Derek, what is your read on the 5th root race cycle of beings?
It's quite a big subject.
It is. I know you can nail it.
But what I also wanted to add to what Harrison was talking about, he's talking about when colonization came. So one of the biggest problems in Africa and also around the world is that when colonization came to different countries, and even before that, it was the dampening down and the stamping out of the ancestral tribal lineages in the different cultures around the world that were living in organic time, living an organic lifestyle, and dampening that out, and also trying to wipe it out, because they don't want people to be connected to their ancestral lines and heritages, because they then connected. First of all, I want to explain to everybody watching this, you've got your ancestral lineage, and then you've got your ancestral light stream. And with the 5th root race, that is actually your ancestral light stream, where you're connecting to a certain vibrational frequency, which is actually very important. And with the different colonizations, it's stamping out that it's basically trying to get rid of vibrational frequency in essence. What do you say, Angela?
I think you're absolutely spot on, and definitely of the now, because the way to disconnect a spirit, a soul in a body, just incarnating from its light stream of intelligence, of its home, of its natural light wisdom, is birth trauma. So we've seen the degradation of the birthing experience across the planet, and women give birth to all men and all women, right, for want of a better phrase. Now,
yes, and I'm going to add to that as well, with the birthing experience process. Also, you've got to actually look at sexual abuse,
absolutely,
and genital
mutilation,
circumcision, and for women as well, which is actually sexual abuse, and people actually having their first really awful sexual abusive experience.
Agreed. And this is
traumatized people for life.
Exactly, and they set patterns by the age of 3. So this is why it's really important to address birth trauma for mother and baby. And I am a proponent of that. So this is where the birthing contracts are inserted during. They can be inserted by imprints from the system, projections, manifestations, directions, interferences, influences in that process. So it's really important to look at this within all life, because we hold the impacts at the core of our functions. We hold it at heart level, we hold it at gut level. But then, due to the disconnection we see that the skills and gifts are switched off, and that child has no recollection of anything. So when you migrate that child with the parents, they go to a different country, they don't feel the land, they're disconnected in their own soul migrations. That's when tremendous confusion and disconnection occurs in that individual spirit. You know, combine that with false birthing times inserted as a program for the mother to experience, so the baby won't receive its full galactic alignment with its elders. We've got to take all these things into consideration. So this is something that is very, very dear and close to my heart, this subject. And it is a type of work that we need in countries all over the world. And I hope in the future that there will be people to train in this way to work with women for this very reason, because it is essential that we have this type of treatment at birthing centres, so women aren't carrying through all the traumas that have been attempted or foisted upon them in any way possible, through system, through life, through culture, through family, through relationship dynamics and those early experiences, like you said. I mean, it has been discovered. I've worked, you know, in many, on many people with this subject, and there have even been contracts where they've been to take a child out to have the cord around the neck, and the individual could have extreme pain and out of alignment, unable to breathe, unable to embody fully. And it's so common. So these are the levels we want to work to.
And then you can add in the mix. You can have a disgruntled nurse that's angry, working in a birthing clinic. And then that young, loving soul is mishandled by an angry, nasty person.
Absolutely. I can speak of that experience. You know, that a similar thing happened in one of my processes. But I was, you know, quite sharp to resolve it. But anyway, so let's just continue on then. Let's just bring in, let's have a look at this, as this has come up for a reason. Let's look at the birthing imprints on all Africans to date. It could be genetic, experimentation, mutations, or whatever you want to call it. Add-ons, interferences, damage via the birth canal.
And then you can also add into the mix, which would be almost unknown factor, people coming through the, being in the womb and coming through the birth canal can also have entity attachments that actually come in during the whole process. And that can also wreak absolute havoc your entire life if they're actually not dealt with and removed.
Exactly. You're exactly right. This is why I like to work with women who are pregnant, because we can put procedures in place to support them with that, so that there is no attached frequency of a lower kind to the incoming soul. And the difference in the outcomes for the child in those very early formative years is through the roof. I've had one with and one without. And the subtle differences in character, but only, you know, which is normal, but actually the way that one conducts themselves and holds themselves and has their energy in and protected and connected. It's a bit like Superman when he flew into the universe. He's in a cradle full of krypton and his parents are talking to him and his family's downloading the knowledge. You know, it's quite like that. Fascinating subject. Can't wait to teach you all about it. Come visit, come find me. I'll just talk all day, but I'll show you the best stuff.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And what's coming up for me is I'm seeing a huge chunk of kids being during the time on when they are supposed to come to earth, they have cords and tag god around their neck. And for majority of the private hospitals, they just make a decision, you're supposed to go to cesarean. But if you happen to go to the government hospital, they will massage that cord until it comes out of the head of the child.
Yes. We need
you proceed
methods, not forceps or Von-Twos. You know, pulling child out with a pair of pliers, ridiculous.
Yeah.
Imagine, you know, I can't tell you how many people I've treated for head injuries and birth.
Sorry.
Through the roof. Every single body, nobody that I have ever treated in the thousands of patients I've treated has gone off scot-free. And I had a pretty good birth myself, actually. My memories of it are very good, but I still had impacts.
Yeah, and
that's why craniosacral therapy is so important. All healers out there, get trained in that and do it to the nth degree.
I'd just like to add, if people don't know about sacral cranial therapy, it's about removing traumatic experiences and trauma in the body.
It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it is.
Right. So how are all the I just want to investigate this. Which group was arguing and fighting that caused this immense stress? Let's zone in on them. And it could be, I knew that, I just want to check, I could be wrong. I just want to check for negative Hyperboreans.
Well, there's this saying, you know, are you from outer Hyperborea?
Now, why are they carrying such great shame? Why is that? What did they do? What are they embarrassed about?
Well, I mean, you wouldn't be carrying shame if you didn't have a sense of being dishonest and manipulative and doing things that are against the organic, true source, prime creator, God.
Right. So what, I'm going to ask them, what are you hiding? With your sudden disappearance, what deals did you do? Who with?
Right now.
I don't know. I don't know what has just happened to my phone. Everything just froze on my screen and I couldn't do anything. But I'm glad I'm back.
Yeah, look. I knew that. Yeah, go on, Derek.
I just want to add, the Hyperboreans, in a negative sense, interfered with the birthing process.
So I'm going to ask them, what did they do exactly? Wow. I mean,
I'm getting that race is connected to giants. And it's like they were part, or they assisted in implementation of this domination and control that we currently have here now. You know, they played a significant part in that, just like what Derek was speaking about.
Yes, Harrison, I completely agree with you. And also what they did with incoming souls, they were so manipulative and sneaky that they managed to switch the actual organic soul coming through with a compromised soul, and say as a starseed was going to come through, they'd do the switch and a compromised soul would come through. and which wasn't actually part of the organic plan. And the starseed would be hijacked.
So this is about to get juicy. I'm just going to bring into this the spiritual court of equity all those that were hijacked, that should be in spiritual role right now. But also, I want them to remove what they've done to the feminine, because I'm really just focusing on the areas where there's more violence, more suppression, more rapes, more brutality. And that's going to spread
That's how
out.
they did it, Angela, by hijacking the system. So they brought through a compromised being that was in alignment with their agenda, and that's what led to more rape and more abuse with females.
Yeah. So we're just going to ask for the seeding of that to be removed. I want to go to levels above the giants or titans or types of those beings, because here we're going to get into an interesting technological aspect. We're going to see technologies such as incubus, succubus technologies that have been manipulated, copied and replicated substantially through those cultures, to the degradation of women in harems and other kind of concubine-esque type affairs where women were really subjugated and were forced to compete with each other, that kind of thing, you know. And you did see a lot of that.
It's abusive behavior which is still going on today.
Yeah,
very much so. Today it's in the form of certain groups of people where the women are actually abused with no rights and
yeah. So I would like them to remove their installation. I feel that their elders are happy with that. And look at the destabilization that occurred in the area.
So for 5 years, they must understand that the Court of Equity has now called into the courtroom the culprits that put this technology, machinery, and their agenda together. And they're being brought to justice. And what they have done is being dissolved in the court right now. And the various other people are being brought into the court, supporters, if you'd like, to come and support on earth what has taken place due to these perpetrators, and resolve it in a very good, loving, kind way.
Beautiful. You always say, you know, you're very poetic with it. It's great. Right. Look, can I just ask something while it's, because it's bursting, it's got to burst out of me, right? Sorry, Harrison, but it is the parents of these, the founders of these giants. And I just want to look at areas of cosmic and galactic controls here. So we're just going to expand out, because there was a big schism with Uranus. I can't actually believe I said that. So sorry.
Yes, and I'd also, no, it's fine. And then I'd also like to bring in Tiamat that was blown up.
Thank you. Gaia, we have here with us. Right. Now, what we have here is a frequency spike that was used from those times. It's like stabbing the heart of female Earth. That's what I see. It's like, you know, giant scimitar or something. So what did the Hyperborean influencers to Earth, what did they instill in the grid? What did they
Sorry,
pin down? What did they pin down in the grid, the Hyperboreans, in those longitudinal lines?
Well, I can tell you right now, what they pinned down was a system that favored their control and manipulation of the people on planet Earth and the females in particularly, and through the birthing process. So I'm calling in right now into the Court of Equity, the masters of grids that actually have the keys to the grid lattices around the Earth, which is obviously also multi-layered because everything's multi-layered. You think you've got rid of one layer and corrected it and healed it. In the meantime, it's like an onion and there's another layer and another layer. So I'm calling in the grid masters of light. They disassembling the false grid systems installed by the Hyperboreans. In the new grid systems, they're placing amethyst crystals of light, transmuting high frequency violet light that is spreading through the lattice works, that is actually moving down through the 12 lines of longitude with the working with the 12 tribes of Israel, as we talked about earlier on in this chat, and they're working with the 12 tribes to correct this grid system. It's going to take about 24 hours to 48 hours to completely resolve, and this is what the court is doing right now in accordance and in alignment with the 12 tribes.
Lovely. And are the 15 removing what they need to from the lines, the people, and allow us into Antarctica? Here we are, in the Spiritual Court of Equity. Now, what do you see? What do you see? That's interesting.
I need to talk about allowed into Antarctica because even on a spiritual level, people have star seeds, star tribes have been blocked from going there in the etheric, in the astral. So those gateways, with the work being done in the course in this session, is being opened up so they can start going to have a look and healing that area in the etheric.
Yeah, and there are massive stations of experimentation. Because it's, you know, when you think of the woman's birthing process, when the waters break, the life occurs.
Well, I think if we have to go to Antarctica, that will be a session in itself.
It is. I expect it like that.
Yeah.
But
Studying
you know,
they're studying the electromagnetic frequency and how it's been spliced and all that stuff. But also for me, what I'm getting is that this Hyperborean race of people used experimentation like what's happening in sun. They had different version of that for them, and they massively impacted on the feminine energy that to achieve the distortion that we have right now here in the current time that we have here.
yeah, it's true. And the Pisht are involved there too. I mean, I didn't, you know, just disappear off. Having done the dirty, wash the hands. Oh, go now. Bye.
Yeah, you see the Hyperboreans as well, what they did with all their deceit is that they basically drained out the love energy of humanity in the heart with those that had been interfered with. So they end up being very unemotional beings. And that's why they could actually be so evil and nasty and do such horrendous crimes against humanity, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can see adding to what what Derek has said is that their main agenda was to make sure that low quality souls, if I can put it like that, that was what was being incarnated here on the planet, and they made sure any high frequency being had a difficult time if it chose to experience life here on the planet.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And there is tremendous mismatching that's gone on in the light technology. So you could have an incredibly high thinker, achiever, doer, but then they're because of the mass migrations and interbreeding through the cultures, through the skin suits, the creations throughout time, through life. Sometimes they can just not integrate well. So you've got often the inner battle taking place. So when you combine that, and this was an agenda, right? When you combine this mismatching of the light technology in the crappy experiments that took place, that person can never fulfill their entire existence because they're fighting on the inside of themselves and they're not quite getting it. One moment they're tremendous and they exhibit leadership skills. And then in the other moment, there's this incredible shyness because they don't feel they can. There's a part of them that's been suppressed by another culture. The information and the problems with this level of experimentation that's gone on is through the roof. And we're not even at the tip of the iceberg. It's massive.
And then we can add into this, the mix or the soup of that, people that have actually become, due to all this confused energy that's amalgamated with inside of them, robotic. And there you know, and attached to different artificial intelligence systems and the splitter tech.
Thank you for saying that, because that's what I wanted to say is happening in Antarctica.
Yeah, well, in Antarctica, I mean, it's a huge subject, but then that would actually also be connected to beast technology.
Exactly. You know, because they all run concurrently in a certain way. So just looking at it in terms of the planet and the energy exchange dynamics from the different poles, and how much energy is literally taken in this toroidal flow to move up through the transistor points, which is basically human beings in that system, that move upwards towards the North Pole and then back around again. You know, it's even mismatched there. So this technology reversed culture, and this is what we're seeing. And we know that everything's been inverted. Everything good that has been inverted, everything bad has been made good, and vice versa. But actually, the threads are really beginning to undo in consciousness what we thought heavily historically or historically just isn't, wasn't, and never. It's just complete fabrication. And we really need to bear that in mind in these times, is that everything that we have learned has been fabrication, unless it's the real, tangible experience, heartfelt, soul-knowing experience through the reality and time frames. But bet you a tenner, you're going to see that down in Antarctica, and you're going to see certain, you know, induction of certain technologies in certain ways. And that's why we never really, most people will never know or have access to it. So how's the birth trauma looking from the removals from all the tribes and cultures? Because I feel that that's going to go on.
Well, it's also quite an individual thing. You know, people need to work on themselves as well, and go back and do some inner work on their experience in the womb. And whatever's negative or doesn't align to their higher good that needs to be released. So I recommend people watching this in their own way direct themselves to someone that can actually put them through going back to the womb. I think Angela can do it for them, and having that experience and releasing from their experience in the womb what needs to be released. What do you say, Angela?
I say, great, do that. And it really helps as well to have the cranio. So, you know, I blend technique, because to really embody and anchor and release from the physical, we just work with the natural system that every single one of us has. And they're all going to be bent out of shape in a slightly different way. And it really is very unique to your soul journey, expression and path. And it's great, you know, freedom. When you work with people that have experienced neck ache for 40 years or something ridiculous, you know, and know that you can actually put a process in place that releases the pain and regrows the bone, tissues, cartilage and everything else.
Absolutely. I mean, I absolutely agree with you. The court can do X amount, and they're working with the higher organic powers that are. So they're dissolving and releasing and, you know, just getting rid of stuff that we've been talking about in this session and in the previous session. But at the same time, people need to do their own inner work and actually feel that on a physical level, you know?
Yeah, it is. And it all comes, you can be a clairaudient, clairsentient, aromatic, clairvoyant, but actually, right, you could be all of those fabulous things. If you cannot feel what is going on at the core of your experience, then you need to shift your external view to the internal. And this is why I keep telling people to come back to their own universe, their own planet, their own core of source, where home is, connected to all, you know, your star elders and star ancestors. You're all one here at the same time. The support is there for you, but it requires you to go deep within. And it's not scary, it's you. Never be afraid of your journey of those moments.
No, it's a beautiful experience that people can have and, you know, want to share with others so that can help them as well, you know, their friends and family members.
Exactly. And that's exactly how I started. You know, I had children and I knew there were different causes. And my life became about doing that. And I was so inspired, I had to go further and further on the fast track until I reached a point of my own self-maestra-ing. That is it. Master, maestra, self. Heal self. Love self. Resolve everything. 24 hours a day. You'll be fine. Get the body work done to match the integration. No problem. It's easy.
Yes, but it's also continuous work.
It is continuous work. But when you put a framework in place, like the spiritual courts of equity, as an extension of yourself, it just becomes a way of life. And you don't even know you're doing it. And some of the most interesting things, it's like, right, my doors are open. Literally, people will find me because the doors are open and they're energetically drawn to that outcome on a soul level. And we begin to do that in all areas of our lives. You know, you check your relationships, you check the children you've had, you check your parents and your grandparents, and you check how you are and what your space is connected to that. Then you've got the system, then you've got career, goal and employment. How do you survive and make it? You know,
yes, but also, I want to, sorry to butt in,
no.
You also found out the truth.
Yeah, yeah, you do. You're avoiding, there's nothing like, you know, connecting with yourself at that level, and you cannot avoid the truth. You can deny it as much as you want, but it is, and it's readable, and you can do that. And it's okay, no one's judging you.
Yeah,
We'll be
nobody's judging.
there on some level or another,
Yeah.
you know, and it's just having empathy for that. You know, I remember 5 years ago, I thought to myself, you know, shall I try just doing something a bit more conventional again? And I couldn't do it. I absolutely couldn't do it because it would turn me backwards on my own path of growth. It was so backward, I was never going to get anywhere. Right, so when you release that sense of being held back by going backwards on your experience and not forward, forging away what you came here to do, you know, that's the biggest block there in itself, is allowing that to take place. But really, all you have to do is just let that end. Spiritual court of equity, your whole body, your eyeballs, your ears, you know, your teeth, your heart, your backbone, your womb. And it will just happen instinctively and automatically. Then you find yourself going in a direction that is more neutral, instead of polarizing yourself. And, you know, I'm guilty of it. I've done that loads, you know, but it's all about bringing it back. Right. So how does that spiritual court of equity look right now?
Listen, we've already done a great job working with the 12 tribes of Israel, getting rid of the inorganic grid lines and putting into place the new grid structure.
Brilliant.
They've got the authority to do this, and placing it's a 5D and above grid system, working with the crystalline geometries and holograms, and it's really beautiful, and it's a new energy emanating down onto, as you say, Mother Earth.
Brilliant. How are the grids in Egypt? I'm just looking around the temple complexes. I'm particularly fascinated by what is now called Lower Egypt, Upper Egypt, Sudan, isn't it? So the lower aspects, Cairo, the temples, the river, the grids, but also the technology that connects them back to Mesopotamia.
Sumeria, Babylon. Harrison, how do you feel about the grids over Egypt?
I think before we did this work, they were still being looked into, and right now they are much better than they were before we began the session, and it's an ongoing journey as these imprints are being removed, because also the guys on the other end are trying to imprint their own ways, because they know those are the grid lines they can use to manipulate the people across Africa and other parts of the world. So it's an ongoing battle, but at some point, something has to give way for the truth and the light and love and neutrality to come through. Yeah.
Well, Angela, in Egypt, you've got the tribe of Judah, which runs all, it's called the 30-30 grid, which runs all the way down Africa. So can you call in the tribe of Judah to continue the work of the grid work in Egypt?
Yeah, they're here with us. I'm just looking at them and just performing an assessment and just looking at what they need to do a better job. So, you know, all these, you know, the common thread is that they're all struck down by guilt from having done things because they know on a level, you know, and it's not all of the culture. We see streams of it through particular cultures which represent the infiltration into these other races by the 15 and their anthroposophic weird stuff. Anyways, I just want to just get this stream out of them.
I'm just picking up while you're busy doing that work and you're talking about inverted systems. Well, they'd actually put into place an inverted tribe, which would be a false tribe working with humanity. And the Court of Equity just brought in the true organic tribe of Judah. And yeah, so we're actually working with the organic tribes, not the inverted false substitutes in this Court of Equity.
Thank you. So I'm
Yeah,
asking for an upshift for them as well.
yeah, and I've just seen, as you're talking, both of you have just seen Ethiopia. There's a huge, what you'd call tribe of Judah. There's so many people there. That's why they are being exterminated and being thrown right, left, and center. You know.
Yes, but Harrison, as said earlier, why are they being harassed? Why are they being exterminated? Because they're holding the true light and the true keys, and it's their connection to the ancestral light streams, the ancestral heritage, the bloodlines, and and it's back to being in touch with nature, being in touch with the universe, and as you said earlier on, when colonization came, they don't want this. They don't want people to know the truth. They don't want people to be in touch with their ancestral bloodlines and their ancestral light streams and vibrational frequencies. They're wanting to dampen down. That's why those people are being exterminated. And yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and as you're talking, I've also remembered, since you're talking about the 12 tribes of Israel, they had one thing that they loved and took care of, and that was the Ark of the Covenant. And the story goes, after the Queen of Sheba went to see King Solomon, so when he returned back, he came back with a son who was called Menrikwan. And later through that lineage, Menrikwan returned to Israel to take the Ark of the Covenant after Solomon had decided to go and worship other gods. And that Ark of the Covenant came down through Ethiopia, and it was hidden on top of Mount Kenya, and it has 12 elders protecting it as a custodian of the knowledge of what it entails and the cultures of the people around that area.
Right. So my next question to them in these moments is, why this pressing ascension technology? And the other thing that I'd like to include into this momentary spiritual Court of Equity is the guardians on earth who are not doing what they're meant to be doing.
Well, they're trying to suppress this, everybody ascending and tuning into that vibrational frequency. And they're trying to hamper it and stop it for what's going on, because the more people that ascend, the less people are available for their harvesting.
Right. So in this moment, I'm asking in the spiritual Court of Equity that all guardians present themselves for this unitary moment of discussion. And if you are here and proud for Earth as your mother, as you are the guardian protectors. Right, and we're just going to look at this further. Blockages in the song lines. Okay, so some of the Earth guardians that claim to be are blocking the song lines of Earth. But not only that, because there's technology seekers and experiencers and high tech kind of people. Yeah.
The Court of Equity is very full tonight.
It is. Can you see them?
Yeah, it's actually jam-packed. it's absolutely, the people outside also wanting to hear what is actually going on, because the impact of it's going to be so huge for Earth, especially as we were discussing earlier with um, mothers about to give birth or giving birth, and the interferences that have taken place. And I mean, the courts, I mean, you were asking earlier how we're doing with the Court of Equity, but I think it's done very well. I mean, basically, we're at 90% complete, but it's still going to take another session or two to actually working with all the interferences with the Hyperboreans, and working with the women, and with birthing and the trauma, and genital mutilation coming in. So, you know, I think we're going to have to do another session on that. Just
absolutely, absolutely. I just want to check that the Hyperboreans have removed any inputs into the guardians or guardian post holders on Earth.
Well, I was just about to say that as well, because they tried to invert that as well and put the false Earth guardians into place and install them. So the court's also dealing with this. They're stamped, signed and sealed. They've brought in the original organic and be replaced them with the false Earth guardians, which have existed up until this point. So thank you very much for just that one thing correcting in the session currently.
Brilliant. You know, if in a spiritual court of equity, for those that choose to use them, if there are any loose ends, this can cause problems. It can leave issues unaddressed, and they build up on an outer edge of the reality that you're connecting to, of your own experience as well. So this is why I like to just be quite thorough about what I'm seeing in the resolutions. So it's good to have addressed that. I just want to ensure very quickly that all those teams that work with the transhumanism are directed to Antarctica, and really go and be thorough. I know they know exactly what they're doing, and I feel that there is movement there now for that, and a mass rescue of souls taking place, and seeds, star seeds. How does it feel to you?
Well, as I said, that's a huge subject in itself, and I think it's going to take a session just to work on Antarctica and really go deep down into actually what has existed, then explain it to the your
it's okay. Yeah.
But, I mean, a lot of people are unaware of actually that even anything's taken place down there. You know, it's just a frozen waste in their minds.
Yeah. They're 40% into it, and I will make those necessary checks later.
Thank you very much.
That's wonderful. So anyone would like to add anything else?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Harrison, go for it.
Okay. I was seeing the grid lines and the cities that they have interjoined with those grid lines. And these geometric cities and those grid lines have been broken, and the word goes that they don't have people to repair them. So the court has done a fantastic thing.
There's just never enough staff, is there? I'll get them to work. So funny. Oh, Derek, my dear.
No, basically, I just agree with Harrison 100%. He's absolutely on the ball, and that's correct. And yeah, and that's what I want to say as well, is that as in all the sessions, even if I'm not present in them, everything is being recorded, and it's going into the great libraries. All these sessions, all the information is there to be accessed on an etheric level as well for those that want to. And yeah, so everything's being recorded and the session's actually 100% finished and it's been recorded.
Brilliant, wonderful news. So, episode 11 of the Africa series. We're just going to keep going until the job's done. It's great. Do join the discussion or contribute to a discussion. It'd be really great to hear from you. Those of you that watch these videos or dip into them from time to time, you know, I'd really like to connect in some way. Come and engage and share on this voyage with us. Leave a like, always welcome from the system. We like to keep those things, you know, happy. Anyway, it's all a bit of a system pain in the backside, working in that way in those areas, because we're really opening up things and it's great. And I hope to educate you AIs pretty soon. Probably got a really great program for you. Oh, we've had this discussion before, it's terrible. So yeah, if you would like to book a session with myself, you can do so. Contact me at Harmony and Perfect Counsel, or find me somewhere online. You will, just by typing in Concordia Consularis. And if you would like to experience a retreat in Mexico in November, please do let me know. It's a week of transformation. You will have bodywork sessions, as well as these really strong resolution sessions, and expanded on your journey into the future. Do get in contact with me at Harmony and Perfect Counsel. And I wish you the biggest, hugest, overwhelming wave of peace to connect from your heart to the cosmos in your universe. And may your true blessings come through to you on your journey in all sacred and joyous ways. So thank you very much, everybody. My name is Angela Miller, and you've been listening to Concordia Consularis, Spiritual and Business Agency of Peace, and we will see you next time.